What if you woke up one day with absolutely no memory? You don't know your name, you don't know your family, and you don't even know who you are. All you know is that you are trapped, and the only way to find the truth is to survive. Today, in this video, I am going to explain the complete story of the Maze Runner, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3, from beginning to end. A journey that starts inside a deadly maze and leads to a truth so dark that you will question whether survival was even worth it. So without wasting any time, let's go back to where it all began. Black, deep darkness. Emerging from that darkness, a lift was moving toward the upper floor. A boy lying unconscious in that lift suddenly woke up. Finding himself in an unknown place, his heartbeat had quickened. He looked around and saw a pile of items scattered nearby. Just then, the lift picked up full speed. Out of fear, the boy started screaming and shouting for help. Just then, the lift stopped with a jolt. The very next moment, a door opened from above, and the bright light of the sun made the boy's eyes light up. The lift had come up from underground to the surface. Above, a crowd of young boys stood surrounding the lift from all sides. Just then, one of the boys from the crowd pulled the boy inside the lift out and threw him onto the ground. All the boys were laughing at him. Frightened by them, the boy began running away from there with all his speed. But after going just a short distance, the boy stumbled and fell to the ground. When he got up and looked around in all directions, there was no limit to his astonishment. He had arrived at a place that was surrounded on all sides by tall and thick walls, and right in the middle, where the boy stood, was a forest filled with trees and a grassy field. Before he could understand anything, the other boys caught him and locked him in a cage. A short while later, a boy came to him. He told him his name was Albie. Albie asked the new boy for his name too. At this, the boy fell into deep thought. Surprisingly, no matter how hard he tried, he could not remember his own name, nor his identity. Albie said to him, "Don't be scared. This happens to everyone who comes here. The good news is, whether you remember anything or not, your name will come back to you very soon." Saying this, Albie brought the boy out of the cage. Coming outside, the boy saw that there was a small village in that place, where all the boys present were roughly his own age, and they were all busy with their own work. Seeing them, the new boy asked Albie, "Who are you people, and what place is this?" At this, Albie explained to him, "We call this place the Glade. This is our home, and I am the leader of the people who live here. Here we do all the work ourselves, from farming to building houses. From the lift you came in, supplies of necessary items are sent to us every month, and along with that, a new boy is also sent. Just like you were sent this month, all of us too were brought here one by one through that same lift." Hearing this, the boy fell into thought. He asked, "Who are the people sending us here? What is their purpose in keeping us here?" At this, Albie said, "I don't know the answers to these questions either." In the middle of all this conversation, a boy named Newt came to them. Newt was the vice leader there, who looked after the place in Albie's absence. After introducing him to Newt, Albie took the boy to the tower, from where the entire glade could be seen. There, the boy's attention went to a pathway that passed through the middle of the large wall. He asked, "What is beyond that wall?" At this, Albie, brushing aside the boy's question, said, "If you want to live here, you will have to remember one important rule. You will never even think of going beyond that wall." Hearing this rule, the boy stayed quiet at that moment, but he suspected that Albie was hiding something from him. He thought there must surely be a way out through there, and thinking this, he started walking toward that path. Just then, a boy named Chuck immediately stopped him. Chuck reminded him of the rule again and said that going on that path was strictly forbidden for them. In the middle of all this, the new boy saw two boys running and coming out from that very pathway in the wall. Seeing them, the new boy asked, "You said no one could go on that path. Then where are these people coming from?" At this, Chuck said, "We are not allowed to go there, but these people are runners. Only they can come and go there because they have full knowledge of that maze." The moment he heard the word maze, the boy's curiosity grew even more. He started moving toward that path. He was just about to go inside when a boy pushed him and knocked him away from the path. At this, the boy became furious. All the other boys gathered there too and tried to calm him down. But the boy was not ready to listen to them. He just wanted to get out through that path. Just then, suddenly a strong gust of wind came from between those walls. Immediately after that, a massive stone door emerged from the wall, which closed that path. Seeing this, the boy was left stunned. Many questions began to rise in his mind about that place, and to find the answers, he went back to the glade with the rest of the people. In this way, the day passed. At night, a celebration was being held in the glade in honor of the new boy's arrival. But on the other side, the new boy sat alone with Newt, gazing at that massive door of the maze. The boy asked Newt, "What exactly is this maze?" At this, Newt explained to him, "This maze is a vast and dangerous labyrinth. We are surrounded on all sides by this enormous maze. We believe that the only way out of here goes through this maze." After telling him this, Newt pointed toward a group group of boys sitting behind and said, "We call those boys runners." Every morning, when the maze door opens, that group of runners goes inside the maze. They memorize the paths of the maze in their minds, prepare a map of it, and search for a way out. But unfortunately, every night the paths of the maze change, which is why 3 years have passed, and even today, they have not found any way out of here. Hearing this, the boy asked, "What will I have to do to become a runner?" At this, Newt told him, "Only strong and agile people can become runners. The work of the runners is extremely dangerous. No matter what, they have to get out of the maze before the door closes. If by mistake any runner gets stuck inside the maze even for one night, he never comes back alive." Hearing this, the boy asked in surprise, "What exactly happens to them after the door closes?" At this, Newt told him, "Inside that maze live some large and dangerous creatures that we call grievers. After the door closes at night, they begin to roam inside the maze. Until today, no one has managed to escape from them and get out of the maze." Newt's words had increased the boy's worry. Seeing this, Newt took him to the celebration to cheer him up. There, he introduced him to the rest of the Glades groups. Among them were some builders, whose job was to build huts. Some were slicers, who did butcher work. Along with them, there were 2 medjacks who treated the sick or injured. Nearby, some boys were wrestling. Among them was also the boy who had pushed the new boy and stopped him from going into the maze. That boy's name was Gally, and he was the leader of the builders group. He challenged the new boy to a wrestling match. The boy accepted the challenge. During the wrestling, with one move from Gally, the boy fell headfirst to the ground. The moment his head hit the ground, his name suddenly came back to him. He got up and shouted happily, "My name is Thomas." Hearing this, all the boys joined in Thomas's happiness. Just then, suddenly a loud growling sound came from the maze, hearing which Thomas shivered. At this, Gally told him, "That is the sound of the grievers. But don't worry, grievers never come to this side of the wall." After that, they all went to sleep. Within a few days, Thomas had mixed well with the other boys. He would also help them in their work. In this way, one day while working in the fields, Newt sent Thomas into the jungle to get fertilizer. When Thomas was searching for fertilizer in the jungle, a boy named Ben came and stood behind him. Ben was a runner. He was staring at Thomas in a furious rage. His eyes had turned deep black. Suddenly, he attacked Thomas. He kept saying one thing to Thomas again and again, that all of this was Thomas's doing. Saying this, Ben started trying to kill Thomas. He would have killed him, but the other boys arrived there in time and grabbed Ben. When they lifted Ben's t-shirt, they saw a deep black wound mark on his stomach. That mark was from a griever's sting. Seeing it, they understood that Ben had encountered a griever in the maze, and the griever had stung him there. The infection from its sting was spreading rapidly through Ben's body. A griever's sting was so dangerous that the infected person would slowly lose their mental balance, become extremely violent, and would also start affecting others. It was strange for them that a griever had attacked Ben during the day, because grievers only came out at night. However, they didn't put too much focus on that at the time, and they all got busy dealing with the trouble that had come in the form of Ben. Just before dusk, Ben was brought to the doorway of the maze, where all the boys of the glade were present with their sticks and clubs. There, Minho, the leader of the runners, gave Ben some food and water and told him to go inside the maze. Ben began begging before them not to send him into the maze. But just then, the door of the maze began to close, after which the rest of the glades people used their sticks to push Ben inside the maze. The moment Ben went inside, the door closed. The meaning was clear. Ben would never return now. Unfortunately, they had no cure for a griever's sting, which is why, for the safety of the others, they were forced to send the infected people inside the maze to die. This was a heartbreaking event for Thomas. Then that same night, while Thomas was in the arms of sleep, he had a dream in which he found himself in a lab. In the dream, he saw a girl, and along with that, he also saw some doctors standing around his body. Thomas suddenly woke up from that dream. Upon waking, he saw that on that morning, Minho was going inside the maze along with the Glade's leader, Albie. A while later, during work, Thomas asked Newt, "Albie is not a runner, so why did he go inside the maze?" At this, Newt told him, "Things have started changing now. Ben getting a griever's sting during the day was not an ordinary thing." Albie went to see exactly how Ben got stung. In this way, evening arrived. Now only a little time was left before the maze door would close, but Albie and Minho had not returned yet. All the boys stood at the door, growing restless, waiting for them. Just then, Thomas said, "We should go inside the maze to find them." At this, Gally said, "That would be against the rules. No matter who comes out of the maze or doesn't, none of us will go inside. We cannot afford to lose any more people." Just then, the door of the maze began to close. At that very moment, they spotted Minho and Albie coming toward them. Albie was unconscious, and Minho was trying to carry him on his back and bring him outside. But very soon, his courage gave way. Now only a few seconds were left before the door would close. Just then, Thomas, without thinking, rushed inside the maze to help them, and with with that, the door closed. When Thomas reached Albie, he saw that Albie had also become a victim of the sting. Minho told him that after getting stung, Albie had gone out of control, so he had to knock Albie unconscious. In the middle of all this, they heard the growling sound of grievers. Hearing it, they started running away from there carrying Albie, but they could not run far carrying the unconscious Albie. So to protect Albie, they began tying him up on the wall with the help of vines. Just then, a griever came out from behind a door and started moving toward them. Seeing it, Minho panicked and ran away from there. But before running, Thomas somehow tied the vines to the stems securely and began escaping while hiding from the griever. He had gone just a short distance when a sticky liquid fell on his shoulder from above. When Thomas looked up, the griever was hanging there, growling at him. A griever was a biomechanical creature whose legs were machine-made, but its body was made of living muscle. The very next moment, the griever attacked Thomas, but Thomas somehow tricked it and fled from there. On the way, he met Minho. At that very moment, the paths of the maze began to change. Seeing this, Minho quickly started running with Thomas toward a safe path. Ahead, the walls of the path began to join together. Minho managed to get out through that path, but Thomas stopped there and began drawing the griever's attention toward himself. He chased it behind him and brought it between the closing walls of the maze. Thomas leaped through the wall with agility, but the griever's large body got crushed between the walls. The next morning, when the maze door opened, the rest of the Glade's members were stunned to see all three of them coming out of the maze alive. Minho told the others how they had encountered a griever, but Thomas had used his cleverness to kill it. Hearing this, all the boys were left speechless. Meanwhile, Gally was furious at Thomas for breaking the rules. But in the eyes of the other boys, Thomas had done something courageous, and keeping that in mind, everyone decided to make him a runner. In the middle of all this, they heard the sound of the lift arriving. Hearing which, they all ran toward the lift. They saw that this time, a girl had been sent among them. She was the same girl whom Thomas had seen in his dream. However, Thomas did not tell anyone this. The girl was unconscious and was holding a note in her hand. Newt read that note. On it was written, "Nothing more will be sent up from this lift." Reading that note, everyone was stunned. Just then, the girl came to consciousness for a moment. She saw Thomas, called out his name, and went unconscious again. Hearing her, all the boys stared at Thomas. However, Thomas also didn't know who the girl was and how she knew his name. A little while later, they had brought the girl inside a hut where the Medjacks were looking after her. Just then, Thomas, Newt, and Minho arrived there. They saw that the girl was still unconscious. However, at that time, more than the girl, they were worried about the fact that if supplies and necessary items were not sent for them from the lift again, they would not be able to survive there for many more days. At this, Thomas said to them, "Now we will have to find a way out of here as quickly as possible." At that very moment, Thomas thought of the dead griever. He immediately went inside the maze with Minho and some boys and began investigating the dead griever so that they might find some clue through it to get out. During the investigation, Thomas saw a red light blinking on one part of the griever's body. When Minho pulled out that part, they found a device inside it in which the red light was blinking. The number 7 was written on that device. They took that device and returned. They also showed that device to Newt and Gally. Seeing the letters WCKD written on that device, Thomas guessed and said, "Maybe this is the name of the company that makes grievers. We should take this device and go inside the maze. It's possible that through this we'll find some clue to get out of the maze." Newt and Minho saw a ray of hope in Thomas's words. Minho immediately brought Thomas to a secret hideout of the runners, where Minho had prepared an exact model of the maze. Seeing it, Thomas was left amazed. Until now, he had thought there were still many unexplored places inside the maze, but Minho had already made a map of every single path of the maze in that model. Minho told Thomas, "We have already seen all the paths of the maze long ago, but until now, we haven't found any way out of here. However, now we can try once more through this device we got from the griever." Minho continued, "We began investigating the outer sections of the maze a year ago. We found that there are a total of 8 outer sections in the maze. Out of these 8 outer sections, 1 outer section remains open every day. The device you found from the griever you killed has the number 7 written on it. This perhaps suggests that the griever came out from the 7th outer section. We will go there tomorrow and see. It is possible that we will find some clue there." In the middle of all this, 2 boys came there and told them that the girl had regained consciousness. Hearing this, when they both went with them, they saw that the girl had gone and sat at the top of the tower and was throwing stones at anyone who came near her. But the moment Thomas told her his name, she calmed down. After that, Thomas went to her. She was sitting there holding a knife. That girl, like the others, had forgotten her past. However, her name had come back to her. Her name was Teresa. Teresa also didn't know how she remembered Thomas's name. She only remembered that before coming here, some doctors were standing around her. At this, Thomas told her that he also had dreams, and in his dreams, he saw Teresa too. Hearing this, Teresa was also left in amazement. After this, she handed Thomas 2 injections and told him that they were in her pocket. Those injections also had WCKD written on them. Looking at those injections, Thomas thought that perhaps those injections might be the antidote to the Griever's sting. The moment this thought came to him, he immediately went to Albie's room with Teresa and Newt. Just as Thomas moved forward to inject Albie, suddenly, Albie grabbed him in fury and started saying, "All of this is your doing." Saying this, Albie started trying to kill Thomas. Just then, Teresa, in one swift motion, plunged that injection into Albie, which made him unconscious. At that moment, the injection seemed to be taking effect on Albie, which gave all of them some relief. Then the next morning, the moment the maze door opened, Minho went inside with Thomas and reached Section 7. Going inside, they found some blood-soaked clothes at one place. Those clothes belonged to Ben, the same boy whom they had chased into the maze after he got infected. He had now fallen victim to the Grievers. Leaving that behind, they moved forward. A little further, a beep-beep sound started coming from the Griever's device. When the device was turned in the left direction, the sound was getting louder and louder, so they walked in the left direction. Moving ahead with that sound, they finally stopped near a wall. Just then, the red light on the device turned green, and the wall slid open upward. Beyond the wall was a chamber, at the end of which was a tunnel. They both understood that the Griever they had killed must have come out from that same tunnel. Before they could investigate that tunnel further, the time came for the maze door to close, and they immediately came out of the maze. Coming outside, they also told their companions about that tunnel and said, "If Grievers can go in and out through that tunnel, then it is also possible for us to get out through that tunnel." However, Gally did not agree on this. He was afraid that if that tunnel was the path for Grievers to come and go, then going there meant inviting their own death. A debate broke out between Thomas and Gally on this very matter. Just then, Teresa came there. She told them that Albie had now regained consciousness. Hearing this, everyone went to Albie. They saw that Albie had now fully recovered. Albie said to Thomas, "After I got stung, some things came back to me from the past. In those memories, I saw you. You were working with the people who imprisoned us here." Hearing this from Albie, doubts about Thomas began to rise in the minds of all of them. Just then, screaming and shouting voices came from outside. When they went out and looked, all the doors of the maze were open, and a swarm of Grievers that came out from those doors had attacked the entire glade. Seeing them, all the people began running in different directions to hide. Thomas too immediately took everyone and hid in the council hall, but very soon a Griever found them. It got Chuck in its grip. It was about to attack Chuck with its mechanical sting, when just then Albie stabbed it again and again with a knife and broke its sting, because of which the Griever released Chuck. But then, the Griever attacked Albie himself and ran away with him. The moment it left, when they all came outside, they saw that the Grievers had now gone from there. But most of their companions had fallen victim to the Grievers. Just then, Gally came there in fury and punched Thomas. He shouted at Thomas, "Ever since you came here, a series of troubles has started in the glade, and now even Albie has confirmed that you are in alliance with the people who have imprisoned us here." Gally's words had made Thomas doubt himself too. To know the truth about himself, only one path remained for him. He knew that whoever had been stung by the Griever had started remembering some things from their past. Thinking this, he also pushed that broken Griever sting into his own leg. The moment the sting hit, he fell unconscious. Fortunately, Teresa still had one injection left, with which she saved Thomas's life. The next morning, when Thomas's eyes opened, he found himself and Teresa locked in a cage. Outside the cage, Newt, Minho, and Chuck were also present. Newt told Thomas, "Gally has taken control of the glade. He is inciting the other boys against you, saying that you are in league with the people who imprisoned us here." At this, Thomas said to them, "Well, Gally is correct to some extent. In fact, this maze is a test. I don't remember who is behind it, but since childhood, they have been giving us various different tests like this. They are conducting some kind of experiment on us by challenging us. I remember that Teresa and I were not part of their maze experiment this time, but rather, we too were working with them on this experiment. They were sending boys here to the maze, one after another, every month. I had been keeping an eye on all of you for years." Hearing this, Teresa asked, "If we were working for them, then why did they send us here?" However, Thomas did not have the answer to this question either. He had now begun to consider himself guilty against those people. At this, Newt reassured him, "Whatever you did before does not matter, because now you are helping us, so we are all with you." Newt's words filled Thomas's mind with confidence. They were determined to get out from there. A little while later, Gally and others brought Thomas and Teresa to the doorway of the maze. They tied Teresa to a post, but Thomas had gone unconscious right then and there. Gally said to the others, "Because of Thomas, we have faced a lot of trouble. It would be best that we not lose any more lives in trying to get out of here, and instead accept the glade as our home. Saying this, Gally decided to sacrifice Thomas and Teresa before the Grievers. He thought that doing so would stop the Grievers from attacking the glade again. Gally ordered his companions to tie Thomas to the post as well. But just then, Thomas, who had been faking unconsciousness, woke up. Together with his companions, he snatched the weapons from Gally and his men. Seeing this, Gally was left dumbfounded. Thomas made Gally and the other boys realize that this was not their home, but that they had been imprisoned here. If they wanted, they could team up with them and get out of here. At this, some boys joined Thomas, but Gally and his companions decided to stay in the glade. After that, Thomas moved forward into the maze with the rest of the boys. Moving ahead, just as they reached close to the wall where the tunnel was, suddenly the Grievers attacked them. Thomas and the other boys began to fight the Grievers with their weapons. During this, Chuck and Teresa used the help of the Grievers' device to open the path to the tunnel. But moving ahead inside the tunnel, they found yet another door, which opened with a password. When Teresa told Thomas that this was an 8-number password, Thomas understood that surely this password was connected to the 8 outer sections of the maze. Thomas asked Minho, "In what sequence do these 8 sections open every day?" At this, Minho told him, "It starts with section 7, then the next day section 1 opens, and after that 5, 2, 6, 4, 8, and finally section 3. When Teresa entered this sequence of numbers as the password, fortunately that door opened. The moment that door opened, all the doors of the maze closed, crushing and killing many Grievers. However, in this battle, Thomas had lost some of his companions too. But with their sacrifice, Thomas and the rest of the survivors found a way forward. Coming out through that door, they found yet another long tunnel. They all began moving forward in that tunnel. Moving ahead, they saw an exit door. When they opened that door and went inside, the sight inside left all of their hearts shaking. They saw that everywhere inside, the bodies of several doctors and some armed people were lying. It was a laboratory that had now been completely destroyed. They saw that from the computers present there, they had been kept under watch inside the maze. There, when Thomas placed his finger on a fingerprint scanner, a recorded video started on the screen. The woman present in that video told them that her name was Dr. Ava Page, and she was the director of WCKD, meaning Wicked. She had made this video for those who would succeed in getting out of the maze and reach this point, meaning Dr. Page's video message was now for Thomas and his companions. In the message, the doctor said to them, "There was a purpose behind everything we did to you. You may have forgotten, but 15 years ago, deadly rays from the sun had scorched the entire earth in fire, because of which all the forests, villages, and cities on earth were destroyed, and crores of people burned and died. But what happened after that destruction was even more terrible. From the hot atmosphere of the earth, a dangerous virus was born, which we named the flare virus. This virus affects the brain and makes the patient extremely violent." The doctor further explained, "For a long time, we could not find any cure for this virus. But then we saw that some children of our new generation, meaning children like you, were immune to this virus. It was necessary for us to find out what it was that made you immune. And to find this out, we put you through difficult tests and took you through difficult circumstances. Unfortunately, in this experiment, many children were sacrificed, because of which some people were bothered by our experiments, and they waged war against us." During these words, Thomas and his companions saw in the video that some armed people had attacked the lab. Seeing them, the doctor shot herself. Watching that video message, Thomas and his companions received a deep shock. At that very moment, a heavy door opened before them. They were all moving toward that door when just then, Gally came from behind and aimed his gun at Thomas. Gally had followed and tracked them all the way there, but a Griever's sting had hit him, because of which he had lost his ability to think and reason. He fired a shot at Thomas, but just then, Chuck took that bullet in his own chest. Seeing this, Minho hurled a spear into Gally's chest, killing him. At that same moment, Chuck also breathed his last. At his death, Thomas broke down and wept bitterly. Just then, some masked armed people came in from outside. These were the same people who had attacked the lab. They took Thomas and his companions and departed from there in a helicopter. At that very moment, from above, they saw the massive structure of the maze, in the center of which was the maze, and surrounding it on all sides were laboratories. Seeing it, they were left stunned. Just then, one of the masked people removed their mask and said to them, "Don't be afraid, you all are safe now." With that, they moved forward, where they saw the terrifying sight of the outside world. The world had now turned into a barren desert. The moment they left, Dr. Ava in the laboratory got up, cleaned her wound, and came into a board meeting. In fact, the attackers coming to the laboratory and the deaths of the doctors, all of it was a scheme by Wicked. Dr. Ava said to the people present there, "Thomas and his companions have fallen into our trap. The first trial of the maze was successful. Now it is time to send them to phase 2. Unaware of the doctor's conspiracy, Thomas and his companions were unknowingly moving toward a new trouble. But to understand where this story begins, we must go back in time. We must understand what kind of world Thomas and his companions were born into, and why an organization like WCKD even came into existence. The answer lies in a catastrophe that shook the entire human race to its core. 15 years ago, deadly rays from the sun scorched the world with unbearable heat. In that season of destruction, the flare virus showed the world a terrifying new face. After the flare virus spread, one night outside WCKD's quarantine area, hundreds of people had gathered, handing over their children to WCKD for their safety. From that crowd, a mother brought her son to the door of the quarantine area. That little boy was Thomas. To keep Thomas safe, his mother handed him over to WCKD. WCKD's guards picked him up and brought him onto a train. On that train, WCKD's director, Dr. Page, was also present. Page was the same person who had faked her death in front of Thomas and his companions in the previous part. Page encouraged the frightened, innocent Thomas and took him along with her. A few years after this incident, in the present time, Thomas and his companions had emerged from the maze and reached near a large building with the masked strangers, when suddenly some strange-looking people attacked them. The masked strangers protected Thomas and his companions and quickly brought them inside the building. Upon arriving there, they met a man named Jansen. Jansen was the leader of those masked strangers. He began taking Thomas and his companions somewhere inside the building. On the way, Thomas asked Jansen, "Who are you people, and why have you brought us here?" Jansen told them, "We have brought you here for your safety, because you children are immune to the flare virus, and now you are the last hope for saving humanity. The outside world has become dangerous because of the flare virus, and WCKD is still searching for you to experiment on you. But don't worry, you are safe from every danger in this place." Saying this, Jansen sent Thomas and his companions to get ready. After they were ready, the doctors there began conducting health checkups on Thomas and his friends. After Thomas and the other boys were checked, the doctor sent them to the dining hall, but they kept Teresa with them and began running some tests on her. Upon reaching the dining hall, Thomas and his friends saw that the entire dining hall was filled with many children of about the same age as them. There they learned that WCKD had not kept only them in the maze, but all the children present there had also been trapped in different mazes. Jansen and his team had saved all the children present there from WCKD, just as they had saved them. After learning this, Thomas and his friends came near a group of boys. Thomas asked one of the boys in the group, "How many days has it been since you all arrived here?" The boy told them, "Most of us have only been here 2 or 3 days, but that boy, sitting alone in the back, arrived here first. Although there were other people in his maze too, he was the only one who made it here." In the middle of this conversation, Jansen came there and selected some children to take with him. Seeing this, Thomas asked the boy, "Where is Jansen taking those children?" The boy told him, "They have built safe shelters far from here for us, where we can begin our new lives without any fear. Jansen selects some children every day and takes them there." In the middle of these conversations, Thomas saw that some doctors were taking Teresa somewhere as well. Seeing this, Thomas began calling out to Teresa and moving towards her, but the guards posted at the door stopped him and said that some of Teresa's medical tests were still remaining, so he could not meet her. After this, the guards sent Thomas and his friends to their room and locked the room from outside. Thomas became restless, wondering why they had kept Teresa separated from them. Just then he heard some whispering from under his bed. When Thomas peered underneath, a boy was calling out to him from below. This was the same boy who had been rescued first by Jansen's team. His name was Eris. Eris had come into Thomas's room through the ventilation. He told Thomas that he wanted to show him something. Saying this, he began leading Thomas somewhere behind him through the ventilation. Going further ahead, they stopped near a grate. He asked Thomas to look down. When Thomas peered below, he saw a doctor taking some unconscious children on a stretcher into a room. After showing this scene, Eris told Thomas that these were the children Jansen had selected. Every day they take the selected children into that room in the same manner, and once a child goes inside, they never come back out. Hearing this, Thomas asked Eris, "What exactly do they do to them?" Eris replied, "I don't know that either, but there must be something in that room that they want to hide from us. I had told the others about this too, but they thought I was crazy. I'm sure you will help me uncover the secrets of this place." Morning was about to come soon, so at that time, they both returned to their rooms. But the next night, they both came back through the ventilation to that room. When they both went inside the room, the scene inside made their hair stand on end. Inside, many children were hanging from machines, and some kind of liquid was being extracted blood from their bodies. Thomas tried to find Teresa among those children, but Teresa was not there. Just then, Jansen arrived there with one of his associates. Sensing his presence, Thomas and Eris hid right there. Just then, Thomas secretly watched Jansen talking to Dr. Page through a projection. Seeing Page alive, Thomas was completely shocked. Thomas understood that they were still in WCKD's grip and that Jansen worked for WCKD. Page told Jansen, "We are very close to finding a cure for the virus. We need to experiment on all the children as soon as possible. Otherwise, Right Arm will take those children away from us and bring them to their secret location." The Right Arm that Page was talking about was actually a rebel group that was strongly against WCKD experimenting on children. Right Arm had previously attacked 2 of their locations and taken some children away from them. That is why Page was worried about Right Arm. In response to Page's concern, Jansen reassured her by saying, "Right Arm is hiding somewhere in the mountains. We will find them soon and finish them off. And as for the experiments, we will start experimenting on Thomas and his friends who were just recently brought in. I am fully confident that we will get good results from them." Saying this, Jansen left from there. As soon as he left, Thomas immediately went to his room and told his friends that Jansen also works for WCKD. They are still experimenting on them. Just then, Jansen arrived at their room, but by then, Thomas had already escaped with his friends through the ventilation. Jansen immediately sent his entire team to search for them. Meanwhile, Thomas and his friends, while searching for Teresa, reached the lab where the doctors were conducting some tests on her. Thomas explained everything to Teresa as well. Then they all immediately took Teresa along and started fleeing from there while evading Jansen and the guards. Meanwhile, Winston injured a guard and picked up his gun. Then they all ran out through the main door and fled toward the desert. All of WCKD's soldiers were hot on their heels, and at the same time, a sandstorm in the desert was also at full force. Seeing the danger, Thomas and his friends came and hid inside a dilapidated building. Upon reaching there, they breathed a sigh of relief. Thomas said to his friends, "I heard Jansen say that Right Arm is WCKD's enemy. It is possible they might help us escape from WCKD. We need to quickly head to the mountains to search for Right Arm." During these conversations, they noticed some footprints there, and along with that, they also found many clothes and some supplies. Thomas guessed that someone must definitely be living there. He asked his friends to collect the necessary supplies from there that would be useful on their long journey. After that, he came down to the lower floor with Minho to search for the people living there. Coming downstairs, they saw that the building was completely deserted. Just then, they spotted a power generator there. Minho immediately turned on the generator, which caused all the lights there to come on. Seeing this, Minho happily turned toward Thomas. But just then, a girl growled and came forward suddenly from inside a cage behind Thomas. Seeing her, Thomas stepped back in fear. Soon, Thomas and Minho began to hear growling sounds of more people. They saw that they were surrounded by many ferocious people. These were people who had been infected by the flare virus. This virus took over the brain of an infected person and slowly turned them into ferocious zombies. Those infected people were called cranks. If a crank bit a person or even dug their nail into someone, that person would also become infected by the flare virus and would slowly turn into a crank. The very next moment, those cranks attacked Thomas and Minho. The 2 of them ran from there at full speed to save their lives. On the way, they also found Teresa and the other boys and took them along, fleeing and trying to exit that building. But just then, the cranks grabbed Winston. Seeing this, the others somehow pulled him out, but in this struggle, the cranks badly injured Winston with their nails. Thomas and his friends immediately took Winston and fled from there, hiding in the cover of darkness at a spot. They stayed hidden there all night out of fear of the cranks. Fortunately, by the time morning came, the cranks had left that place. Seeing this, they quickly moved far away from that location. Going further ahead, Thomas saw that the mountains they needed to reach were quite far from them. During this time, Teresa came to him. She told Thomas that in the hospital, WCKD's doctors had done something to her that brought back all her past memories. She also remembered the reason why WCKD had sent both of them into the maze. Teresa was about to tell more when suddenly they heard the sound of gunfire. They ran, and when they reached their friends, they saw that Winston, overwhelmed by the pain of his wound, had tried to kill himself, but the others had saved him. Just then, they saw that Winston had also been infected by the flare virus from the crank's nails, and he was slowly turning into a crank too. Thomas and his friends had no way to save him, so they were forced to give Winston the gun, and at his request, they left him behind and moved forward. Winston freed himself from life before turning into a crank. After that, the rest of the group kept wandering through the desert. Time passed, and the day ended, and darkness fell all around. In that darkness, they suddenly spotted some lights flickering at a short distance from them. Seeing them, they guessed that it must be Right Arm's location. Thomas was just saying this when they saw behind them a terrible storm heading right toward them, dropping lightning as it came. After the devastating devastation caused by the sun, the Earth's atmosphere had changed, which had caused the storms to take an even more fierce form. Seeing it, they began running quickly toward those lights. The lights were coming from a building. They were just about to reach that building when suddenly a lightning bolt struck right next to Minho, and its shock sent Minho flying far away. They immediately picked up Minho and brought him inside the building. Fortunately, from the electric shock, Minho had only fainted. He regained consciousness soon after. After that, when Teresa shone her torch in that place, a crank growled and pounced on her. Fortunately, that crank was bound by a chain. The very next moment, they saw that the entire place was filled with cranks that someone had tied up with chains. Just then, a girl came toward them from among those cranks. She told them that her name was Brenda, and these cranks had been tied up by them for the security of this place. Saying this, Brenda brought Thomas and his friends inside the building. Inside, they met Brenda's group and their leader, Jorge. Jorge asked Thomas and his friends about their reason for coming there. Thomas told him that they were looking for Right Arm. After that, Jorge asked where they had come from, but Thomas and his friends refused to answer Jorge's question. Seeing this, Jorge's companions grabbed Thomas. After that, Brenda scanned Thomas's neck. As soon as she scanned it, Jorge received all of Thomas's information on his device. In fact, WCKD attached secret tags to the backs of the necks of all the children brought for experiments, through which they identified them. As soon as it became known that Thomas and his friends had escaped from WCKD, Jorge's companions grabbed Thomas and his friends and hung them upside down. A little while later, Jorge came to Thomas and his friends and told them that they were not Right Arm, but a group of survivors who had survived the flare virus so far. Jorge further said, "The survivors present here want to sell you back to WCKD in exchange for money. But I have come here to make a deal with you. Right Arm actually knows about a place that is safe from the flare virus. That place is called the Safe Haven. Right Arm has been sending immune children like you to that place for years. But Brenda and I are not immune. So if I save you from WCKD and take you to Right Arm, then in return you will have to take me and Brenda with you to the Safe Haven as well." Thomas and his friends agreed to this deal. In the middle of these conversations, a survivor came there. Seeing him, Jorge left from there. Jorge came inside and began packing his belongings. He explained his entire plan to Brenda as well, and immediately sent her to bring Thomas and his friends. During this time, Jansen and his soldiers arrived there searching for Thomas and his friends, and began killing the people inside the building while searching for Thomas and his companions. On the other side, Thomas and his friends somehow freed themselves from the ropes. They were just about to escape from there when a survivor spotted them and pointed his gun at them. That survivor was Jansen's informant. He was the one who had tipped off Jansen about Thomas and his friends being there. He immediately contacted Jansen and called him to that room. But just then, Brenda shot that survivor from behind and brought Thomas and his friends to Jorge. During this time, Jorge activated the bombs he had planted in that building, which were about to explode in just a little while. So Jorge immediately took everyone to a window in the building. Jorge began taking them all to another building by zipline. But just then, Brenda went back inside to get some of her belongings. Seeing this, Thomas sent his friends with Jorge and went after Brenda. But by then, Jansen's soldiers had reached them and started attacking them. Brenda and Thomas ran while somehow escaping from them. Just then, Jorge's planted bombs started exploding, which blew up that entire place along with Jansen's companions. But Brenda, while dodging the blasts, somehow brought Thomas to the basement of that building. Now they were both stuck in the building's basement, far from their companions. Just then, Brenda found a tunnel there. She began moving forward with Thomas through that tunnel. On the way, Thomas asked Brenda, "Do you know the location of Right Arm?" Brenda replied, "Not Right Arms exactly, but I know the location of a person named Marcus who can take us to Right Arm. Jorge must have gone to Marcus with your friends, so we need to go to him as well." While saying this, Brenda was moving forward with Thomas when suddenly they saw something like roots at a spot. When they looked ahead in the light of the torch, that entire place was filled with cranks. Those roots had come out of the cranks' bodies. The very next moment, the cranks sensed Thomas and Brenda, and like death itself, they began chasing them. Thomas and Brenda ran quickly and came out of the tunnel and began climbing up a ruined tall building. But just then, Brenda's hand slipped and she fell straight onto a glass window. Seeing this, Thomas also began coming down to help her. But just then, a crank also reached there and pounced on Brenda. It was about to kill Brenda when Thomas smashed the glass of that window with a rod, causing the crank to fall below. But Thomas caught Brenda's hand just in time and saved her. They both immediately came down from that building. Just then, Thomas saw that the crank had bitten Brenda, but this did not stop Brenda. Instead, she took Thomas to another shelter of the survivors. Upon arriving there, she asked a man for Marcus's location, but the man said that Marcus was dead. Hearing this, Thomas asked asked him about his friends. The man told him that his friends were inside at his party house. But before letting them inside, the man gave Thomas and Brenda a drink and said that only after drinking that drink could they go inside. Thomas and Brenda were forced to drink that drink and went inside. Going inside, Thomas and Brenda separated and began searching for their companions. But just then, the intoxication from the drink made Thomas's head spin and he passed out. In his unconsciousness, he began to remember some past events. He remembered the time when he and Teresa worked for WCKD. He had secretly called Teresa to meet him and told her that he had rebelled against WCKD because WCKD was killing innocent children to create a cure for the virus. Thomas was telling Teresa all of this when WCKD's people came and took him away. With this, Thomas woke up from his unconsciousness. As soon as he woke up, he saw that Teresa and all his friends were beside him. Meanwhile, Jorge had beaten the man there in a terrible manner. In reality, that man was Marcus himself. Jorge had beaten Marcus brutally to extract Right Arm's location from him. Thomas and his friends set out with Jorge to find Right Arm. Going further ahead, they reached the mountains, but a pile of old vehicles had accumulated on a tunnel ahead, blocking the way for their vehicle. They got out of the vehicle and began moving ahead on foot. Just then, suddenly gunfire started at them from somewhere. They all immediately hid behind the vehicles. Just then, two masked girls arrived with guns and asked everyone to come out. Hearing this, everyone came outside. Just then, those girls recognized Eris. Eris also told everyone that those girls had been with him in the maze. As soon as they met Eris, those girls lowered their weapons and called out all their hidden companions. After that, they began taking Thomas and his friends along with them. On the way, Eris asked those girls how they had gotten out of the maze and made it here. The girls told him that Right Arm had taken them out of the maze and they now worked with Right Arm too. As soon as they heard the name Right Arm, a wave of happiness ran through Thomas and his friends. After that, those girls brought them from there to Right Arm's secret location. Upon arriving there, they met Right Arm's leader, Vince. The girls told the leader that they knew Eris. Eris and his friends were immune and needed Right Arm's help. The girl was still talking when Brenda's infection got worse and she collapsed. Seeing Brenda's wound, the leader realized that Brenda had been infected by the flare virus and was about to turn into a crank soon. Seeing this, he pointed his gun at Brenda. But just then, one of Right Arm's doctors arrived and stopped the leader. Surprisingly, that doctor recognized Thomas. The doctor told the leader that she could heal Brenda through Thomas. Although Thomas had no memory of that doctor, he asked her, "How do you know me?" The doctor told him that when Thomas used to work for WCKD, Thomas had made contact with her. In fact, WCKD kept killing innocent children one after another for its experiments. This filled Thomas's heart with hatred for WCKD, so he gave Right Arm the locations of all of WCKD's bases and all the maze locations. Along with this, Thomas also continued to inform Right Arm about every activity of WCKD from time to time. But one day, Thomas was caught. However, Thomas was also immune to the virus, just like the other children. This meant he was valuable to WCKD. So instead of killing him, WCKD sent him into the maze and made him part of their experiment. The doctor further explained that all the children that Right Arm had saved so far were all thanks to Thomas. Knowing this, respect for Thomas in the hearts of all the people present there grew even more. After that, the doctor immediately brought Brenda and Thomas inside a tent. The doctor took a sample of Thomas's blood. During this time, the doctor also revealed that she used to work for WCKD before. There, they had discovered that a special type of enzyme was produced in the brains of certain children, and this enzyme mixing into their blood made them immune. However, this enzyme could not be manufactured, but could only be extracted from the blood of immune children. Despite knowing this, WCKD continued its experiments and began extracting the enzyme from innocent children's blood by putting their lives at risk. Hearing this, Thomas asked, "Is this enzyme the cure for the virus?" The doctor replied, "No, this enzyme does not completely eliminate the infection of the virus. Rather, it can only stop the infection from spreading for some time. But WCKD is hopeful that one day they will find a complete cure for the virus through this enzyme. However, for this, they will end up destroying our entire new generation by experimenting on all the innocent children. That is why I left WCKD and engaged in trying to save innocent children from them, so that we can make a new beginning for humanity with those immune children." Saying this, the doctor separated the enzyme from Thomas's blood and injected it into Brenda's arm. Thomas asked the doctor how long this one dose of the enzyme would stop the infection from spreading in Brenda's body. The doctor told him that it varies for everyone. Perhaps this would stop the infection from spreading in Brenda's body for a few months. But the most unfortunate thing was that they would have to keep giving Brenda increasing doses of the enzyme from time to time going forward. If the effect of the enzyme wore off, then Brenda's turning into a crank was certain. Thomas saw that due to the enzyme, Brenda's condition had begun to improve. Leaving her to rest, he went outside aside to his other friends. Thomas and his friends were very happy in Right Arm's shelter, but Teresa was standing alone on a hilltop, looking sad and distant from everyone. Seeing this, Thomas came to Teresa and asked her the reason for her sadness. Teresa told him that she had watched her mother turn into a crank before her very own eyes, and that was the reason why she was previously trying to save the world from the infection by working with WCKD. In the middle of these conversations, Thomas spotted two helicopters heading right toward them. Thomas asked, "Who are those people?" Teresa said, "I want us to find a cure for the infection by working with WCKD instead of running like this. So I have told BCKD the location of Right Arm's shelter." Hearing this, the ground slipped from under Thomas's feet. He immediately ran to alert everyone. But before he could reach the camp, Jansen and his soldiers attacked the camp and captured all of Thomas's friends, as well as all of Right Arm's people, and took them prisoner. On the other side, Thomas, while searching for Brenda, reached her tent. Brenda and Jorge were found safe and sound there. Thomas saw that Brenda had recovered due to the effect of the enzyme. Thomas told Brenda and Jorge to flee from there and surrendered himself to WCKD. Just then, Paige arrived there in her helicopter. On Paige's orders, her soldiers began loading all the immune children onto the helicopter. Meanwhile, Teresa also came to Paige. Paige told Thomas and his friends that they had restored Teresa's memories right from the beginning, after which Teresa had been working for them. Hearing this, Thomas and his friends were left speechless. Teresa told them that Paige had promised her that if they cooperated with WCKD, then WCKD would keep them all safe. On this, Right Arm's doctor said that WCKD only knows how to shed children's blood, not protect them. As soon as Jansen heard this from the doctor, he shot her. Just then, Jorge and Brenda arrived there in a truck and began attacking WCKD's soldiers. Seizing the opportunity, all of Right Arm's people also picked up their guns and began fighting hard against WCKD's soldiers. But just then, Jansen grabbed Thomas. He was about to shoot him when Brenda shot Jansen's hand and injured him. Thomas quickly ran back to his friends. On the other side, Minho was also protecting his friends with his gun. But just then, one of WCKD's soldiers shot Minho with a stun gun, and they picked him up and took him to the helicopter. Thomas and his companions tried to save Minho, but failed. Paige, Teresa, and Jansen took Minho along with all the captured children and immediately fled from there. Thomas and his companions could do nothing except watch them leave. The next morning, Right Arm's leader decided to take the remaining children to the safe haven, but Thomas refused to go to the safe haven with them. He said that he would not go anywhere without his friend Minho. Now, he had only one goal: to take revenge on Paige and destroy WCKD to free Minho along with all the children. Hearing this from Thomas, the fire of vengeance blazed inside everyone present there, and they all got to work planning to rescue their friends from WCKD. And with this, Maze Runner Part 2 came to an end here, but the story is still continuing in Maze Runner Part 3. At the beginning of Maze Runner Part 3, we see a car racing through the wind, chasing a high-speed train. Inside that car were Thomas and the Right Arm leader Vince, who had set out with death-defying determination to carry out a dangerous mission. 1 month before today, Thomas had received information that Wicked was planning to shift Minho, along with all the immune children, to a different location via that train. For Thomas, this was the last chance to save Minho, so he began planning to rob that train, and today he had set out to execute his plan. Thomas and Vince hooked their car to the train and climbed on board. Behind the train, Brenda and Jorge's car was also in position. Then, the moment Thomas gave the command, Brenda began firing at the train drivers. Seeing the danger, the drivers immediately called for help. Within moments, a massive Wicked helicopter that was guarding the train reached them and began dropping bombs on Brenda and Jorge while chasing them. The two of them somehow managed to escape the helicopter and started fleeing. Meanwhile, Thomas and the leader disconnected the bogies, carrying the immune children from the engine. But the engine also stopped a short distance away, and Wicked soldiers began coming out of it toward Thomas and Vince. Seeing this, Thomas immediately called out to Newt, who was hiding behind a rock nearby with some boys. Newt quickly arrived with a metal cutting machine. After that, Thomas called out to Minho. Hearing him, Minho and the other children began screaming for help, which gave Thomas a sense that Minho was in the first bogie. On Thomas's signal, Newt and the others began detaching that bogie from the train. On the other side, Wicked's helicopter cornered Brenda and Jorge's car in one spot. Soldiers descended from the helicopter and pointed guns at them. They were about to kill them when suddenly a pit opened up beneath those soldiers, and half of them fell into it. Those soldiers had fallen into the trap set by Brenda and Jorge. Just then, Frighten and the rest of the Right Arm people who were hiding there captured all the soldiers. Meanwhile, Newt and the others successfully detached the bogie from the train. But by then, Wicked soldiers had closed in on them and began firing. Just then, Jorge arrived with Wicked's helicopter. They hooked that bogie to the helicopter and escaped with the children right under the soldiers' noses. Upon reaching their base, when Thomas and his friends opened the bogie, they saw that Eris and some immune children were inside. outside, but Minho was not there. Thomas and his friend's joy turned into disappointment. Eris told them that Minho had been in a different bogie on that train. Eris said, "I had secretly overheard Wicked's people talking about taking us to a city where they were going to conduct some major experiment on us." After gathering this information from Eris, Thomas looked at the map and saw that the track the Wicked train was traveling on ended at a city. From this, Thomas concluded that Wicked must have taken Minho to that city. Thomas immediately told Vince that they needed to go to that city right away and rescue Minho by attacking Wicked. Vince replied that at that moment, getting the rescued children to safe haven was more important than saving Minho, because Wicked's team could arrive at any moment. And besides, all the cities had already been destroyed, so he didn't think there would be any city where Thomas wanted to go. Hearing this, Jorge said that there might be one city that Wicked had built after the destruction. They had named that city the Last City, but going there would be like inviting one's own death. In the middle of this conversation, their radio caught a Wicked signal. Over the radio, they heard that Wicked's helicopter was patrolling nearby in search of them. Hearing this, they immediately turned off all the lights in that place, narrowly escaping capture. Seeing this, Thomas also understood that until the right arm got those children to safe haven, the children would not be safe. So Thomas resolved to go and save Minho alone. As midnight arrived, he slipped away from everyone and came to a vehicle. Then he saw that Newt and Frypan were already inside that vehicle, waiting for Thomas. The two of them had also decided to go with Thomas to save Minho. Then, the three of them secretly set out in search of the Last City. During this time, on the other side, Minho suddenly woke up from sleep. Upon waking, he found himself back in the maze. Finding himself in the maze, Minho became very frightened. Just then, he saw a child who ran past him and entered a hut. Minho ran after him, and when he entered that hut, he suddenly found himself in the corridor of a building. Then he saw a griever emerging from behind a door, moving toward him. Terrified, Minho began running from there with all his speed. But suddenly his hands and feet froze, and he found himself tangled in a net hanging from the corridor ceiling. Just then, the griever reached Minho and opened its huge mouth and swallowed him. In reality, what happened to Minho was not reality, but his memories. Wicked's doctors were tormenting Minho by showing him his terrifying memories, which was increasing the stress in his brain. Due to that stress, an enzyme was continuously being produced in Minho's brain. This was the same enzyme that made some children like Minho immune. Wicked had kept the immune children in the maze to discover this enzyme. After finding the enzyme, Wicked had begun extracting it from the immune children in a certain way. The enzyme was being produced in Minho's brain and mixing into his blood, and Wicked's doctors were extracting that enzyme from Minho's blood through a machine. Outside that same lab, Teresa was also watching Minho suffer along with Paige. Seeing Minho in that condition was causing Teresa pain too. But at that moment, she just wanted to find a cure for the infection by any means. The doctor informed Paige and Teresa that the enzyme obtained from Minho was considerably stronger compared to that of other immune children, and therefore it could prove effective in treating the virus. At this, Paige ordered the doctor to extract even more enzyme from Minho. After that, the doctors began tormenting Minho again. On the other side, Thomas, Newt, and Frypan entered a tunnel while searching for the Last City. A little further into the tunnel, a crank appeared in their path. They thought they could easily shake off one crank, but the very next moment, an entire horde of cranks attacked them. Terrified, they began driving the car at full speed. In this struggle, the car suddenly flipped over. Thomas and Frypan were unhurt in the accident, but Newt got a minor scratch on his hand. At that very moment, a large number of cranks surrounded them from all sides. The cranks were about to kill them when, just in time, a car came to them, crushing those cranks. It was Brenda and Jorge's car. They had followed Thomas and his friends and arrived at exactly the right time. They rescued the three of them from the cranks and quickly brought them out of the tunnel. After that, Thomas and his friends set off on the journey ahead with Brenda and Jorge. After a long journey, they finally saw the city, the Last City. They saw that Wicked had constructed the Last City right in the middle of a destroyed old city and had surrounded it on all sides with tall, thick walls to protect it from cranks. Wicked's headquarters was located in the Last City. It was there that Dr. Paige was conducting experiments on Minho in her laboratory. Thomas set out with his friends toward the Last City to save Minho. Meanwhile, at Wicked's headquarters, Paige and Teresa were in a meeting with Wicked's board members. Paige informed the board members that the infection of the flare virus had now begun spreading through the air as well. This virus would infect all the people in the city within a month. But at that moment, there was one hope remaining for finding a cure for the infection, and that was Minho. Saying this, Paige asked the board members for permission to test the medicine made from Minho's enzyme on infected people. The board members gave their approval. On the other side, Thomas and his friends arrived in the old city, in the middle of which the last city existed. Only wealthy people lived in the last city, but many ordinary people were also living in the old city who had survived the flare virus. With the growing danger of infection, ordinary people also wanted to come into the last city, but Wicked had completely banned ordinary people from entering the last city. For this reason, some groups of armed rebels had taken to the streets to protest against Wicked. Those rebels were gathering all the common people with their inflammatory speeches and leading them toward the security walls. Meanwhile, Thomas noticed that a rebel wearing a gas mask was continuously staring at Thomas and his friends. Although Thomas ignored him and came close to the security walls along with his friends, hoping to find some way in from there. But getting past Wicked's soldiers to cross the wall was impossible. Just then, that rebel wearing the gas mask began approaching Thomas and their friends along with his companions. Seeing those rebels coming toward them, Thomas and his friends became alert. Meanwhile, a Wicked drone hovering above scanned the tag on Thomas's neck, which gave Wicked information about the presence of Thomas and his friends there. Jansen immediately ordered his soldiers to attack Thomas and his friends. After that, soldiers stationed on top of the wall began firing bullets and bombs indiscriminately at all the people. One after another, many innocent people were killed in that attack. Thomas and his friends were also fleeing to escape the attack. Just then, those rebels wearing gas masks grabbed Thomas and his friends, put them in a van, and brought them to a building. Coming out of the van, an enraged rebel began beating Thomas and his friends. But just then, one of the rebels calmed them down and removed his gas mask. That rebel was none other than Gally, the same Gally who in the first part, after becoming infected, had shot Chuck, after which Minho had driven a spear into his chest. Seeing Gally alive, Thomas, Newt, and Frypan were completely stunned. Just then, Thomas began beating Gally to avenge Chuck's death. But Newt explained to Thomas that at that time, because of the infection, Gally's mind was not in his control. He had not killed Chuck intentionally. Hearing this, Thomas let Gally go. After that, Newt asked Gally, "How did you survive the infection and the spear wound?" Gally told them that he was also immune, which is why the infection did not affect him for long, and he had not died from Minho's spear but had been injured. After Thomas and his friends had left, a group of rebels came to that Wicked lab. When they found out that Gally was immune, they immediately picked him up, brought him to their leader in this city, and saved him from dying. Since then, Gally had joined the rebel group. After telling them this, Gally asked Thomas and his friends, "What are you all doing here?" Newt told him that Wicked had captured Minho, and they were looking for a way to get past the wall to save him. Hearing this, Gally said he could help them get past the wall. Saying this, Gally brought them to his leader Lawrence. Seeing Lawrence's face, Thomas and his friends were stunned. Lawrence was also infected by the virus, but he had somehow managed to obtain the infection medicine from Wicked. With the help of that medicine, he had managed to avoid turning into a crank so far. That medicine did not cure the infection, but stopped it from progressing. So Lawrence had not fully turned into a crank, and his mind was still under his control. Gally told Thomas that Lawrence had also been trying for a long time to get inside Wicked's lab. Although they had found a way past the wall, they had failed to enter the lab due to Wicked's heavy security. In the middle of this conversation, Thomas noticed that Lawrence's medicine was about to run out soon. Thomas understood that Lawrence wanted to enter Wicked's lab for the infection medicine. Thomas made a deal with Lawrence that if Lawrence helped them get past the wall, in return Thomas would steal that medicine from Wicked and bring it back for Lawrence. Lawrence agreed to this deal. After this, Thomas, Newt, and Gally went through a secret tunnel to get past the wall and scout the last city. On the other side, in Wicked's lab, Teresa came to a small girl who was infected by the flare virus. Teresa injected into that small girl's hand the medicine that Wicked's doctors had made from Minho's blood. The moment the injection was given, that girl was completely cured. Seeing this, Teresa along with Paige and Jansen, who were standing outside, were overjoyed. On the other side, Gally took Thomas and Newt inside the last city. He kept them safe from Wicked's soldiers and brought them to a high point. Gally told them, "The building you can see in front of you is where Wicked's laboratory is. They must have kept Minho there. However, there is security and surveillance everywhere, but we have one way to get inside that building." Saying this, Gally asked Thomas to look inside the building through binoculars. When Thomas looked inside that building, he saw Teresa there. Gally continued, "If we kidnap Teresa, we can use her to get inside the building." Although Thomas did not think Gally's plan was right, they began arguing about it when they returned. Just then, Newt suddenly became very angry. He said to Thomas, "Teresa has betrayed us. Then why are you worrying more about Teresa than saving Minho?" Seeing Newt so angry, everyone was stunned. But then Newt apologized to everyone and went outside. A little while later, Thomas came to Newt. Just then, Newt showed Thomas his hand. Thomas saw that Newt had also been infected by the flare virus. In fact, when Newt had gotten injured on his hand while facing the cranks in the tunnel, the flare virus present in the air had entered his bloodstream through the wound. From that very moment, Newt had been slowly turning into a crank. Due to the infection, he had lost control of himself and lashed out at Thomas in anger. Seeing Newt infected, Thomas was deeply shocked. Thomas and Newt began wondering why Wicked had kept some non-immune children like Newt and Winston in the maze. Newt guessed that perhaps Wicked wanted to find out what the difference was between the brains of immune and ordinary children. Now Thomas had to not only save Minho, but also bring back the infection medicine from Wicked for Newt, so he agreed to Gally's plan to kidnap Teresa. On the other side in the lab, Teresa saw that the girl she had treated with medicine made from Minho's blood had turned back into a crank. This meant that the medicine made from Minho's blood had also failed to cure the infection. It had only stopped the infection from progressing for a short time. This failure dashed all the hopes of Paige and Teresa. Teresa left feeling dejected and started heading home. While she was on her way home, Thomas and his friends together kidnapped Teresa and brought her to their base. Gally threatened Teresa and said that if she wanted her own good, she would have to take all of them to Minho. After this, Thomas handed Teresa a knife and asked her to remove the tags attached to the back of everyone's necks so that they would not be detected by sensors while entering the building. After Teresa removed the tags from everyone's necks, she began making a cut on Thomas's neck to remove his tag too. In the meantime, Teresa, seeing Brenda, who had recovered from infection, asked Thomas, "When did you last give Brenda a dose of the medicine made from your blood?" Thomas replied that Brenda had been given only one dose of the medicine by the right arm's doctor, and after that, no more medicine had been given to her. Hearing this, Teresa was startled. She told everyone, "The medicine made from Thomas's blood has cured Brenda's infection. This means that we may be able to find a cure for the infection from Thomas's blood." But no one believed Teresa's words. They thought she was being clever to escape from them. They all began preparing to take Teresa to Wicked's building. At the same time, Teresa secretly kept with her the cloth that had Thomas's blood on it. After that, Thomas, Newt, and Gally, dressed in Wicked's soldier clothes, entered Wicked's laboratory with Teresa. Gally fitted a device into Wicked's security system, which gave rebel leader Lawrence access to all of Wicked's security systems. Lawrence's hackers immediately shut down all of Wicked's security cameras. During this time, Newt's condition began to worsen. Seeing this, Teresa realized that Newt was also infected by the virus, although Newt somehow managed to compose himself. On the other side, as per the plan, Frypan also climbed up the city's tower crane and took his position. Meanwhile, Thomas, Newt, and Gally, with Teresa's help, quickly reached the chamber where Wicked had imprisoned the immune children. They knocked out all the guards present there. After that, they brought all the children out of the rooms, but Minho was not among those children. At Thomas's request, Teresa checked on the computer and told them that the doctors had taken Minho to the hospital for a checkup, which was in the very next building. Learning this, Thomas and Newt started going to the hospital with Teresa to get Minho, but Gally stayed behind because he had to take the medicine stored in the locker there for Lawrence. He began cutting open that locker. During this time in the hospital, doctors were running tests on Minho. Jansen had ordered the doctors to continuously keep extracting enzyme from Minho, even though doing so could kill him. On the other side, when Thomas, Newt, and Teresa entered the hospital elevator, Jansen also stepped into the same elevator. Due to the mask, he did not recognize Thomas and Newt, but seeing Teresa looking nervous, he sensed something was wrong. As soon as Thomas, Newt, and Teresa came out of the elevator and reached the hospital door, Jansen arrived there with his soldiers. Jansen was about to grab Thomas and Newt when Teresa pushed Thomas and Newt inside through the door and locked it. Jansen was furious at Teresa's action, but Teresa told him that she had intentionally sent Thomas and Newt into the hospital so that they could seal the hospital and capture them easily. Saying this, Teresa won Jansen Jansen's trust. After that, Teresa went to the lab with Thomas's blood-stained cloth to test it. And Jansen deployed his soldiers at every corner of the hospital to capture Thomas and Newt. During this time, Gally cut open the locker on the other side, packed all the medicines into a bag, and came to the parking area with the immune children. In the parking area, Brenda was waiting for them with a bus, but Thomas and Newt hadn't arrived yet with Minho. This increased Brenda's worry. Just then, Gally handed all the children and medicines over to Brenda and went to find Thomas. On the other side, Thomas and Newt were calling out for Minho and searching for him while avoiding the soldiers. Just then, the sleeping Minho in the scanning room heard Thomas's voice. Hearing it gave Minho courage, and he attacked the doctors and guards and escaped from there. On the other side, Thomas and Newt were confronting soldiers, but their ammunition quickly ran out. They were about to be killed by a soldier when, just in time, Minho arrived there and beat that soldier to a pulp. Thomas and Newt were overjoyed to see Minho, but soon Jansen's allies were after them again. To escape from them, Thomas, Newt, and Minho broke through a window and jumped down into the swimming pool. The three of them had just come out of the water when some soldiers surrounded them there too. Just then, one of the soldiers shot his own companions. In reality, that was not a wicked soldier, but Gally. Seeing him, Thomas, Newt, and Minho were greatly relieved. On the other side, in the parking area, Brenda was waiting for Thomas and his friends. Just then, some soldiers saw the bus parked in the parking area and started coming toward it. Seeing them, Brenda started the bus and drove away at full speed. But wicked soldiers also got into their vehicles and chased after Brenda. They cornered Brenda on the way. Seeing this, Brenda stepped out of the bus and the next moment fired a flare gun into the air. The light from that gun let Frypan, who was operating the tower crane, know Brenda's position. He lifted Brenda and the children along with the bus and delivered them past the city's wall. After that, Brenda and Frypan arrived at the rebels' base with all the children and medicines. But there was no sign of anyone there. All the rebels had gathered the common people over there and were now close to Wicked's walls. In reality, rebel leader Lawrence's true purpose in sending Thomas and his friends into Wicked was not to obtain medicine for himself, but to hack Wicked's security system so that he could shut down Wicked's defense system and attack the last city. Now Lawrence was on the verge of accomplishing his goal. He got into his vehicle and drove at full speed into Wicked's wall. The bombs in his vehicle caused a massive explosion, which destroyed both Lawrence and Wicked's wall along with him. After that, the rebels joined with the common people and launched an attack on Wicked's city, killing Wicked's people and beginning to destroy the city. Wicked's people immediately began to evacuate the city. During this time, Paige came to Teresa. She told Teresa to leave the city as well. But just then, Teresa showed Paige under the microscope that the enzyme extracted from Thomas's blood was not only preventing the flare virus from spreading, but was also destroying it. This meant that Thomas's blood was the cure for the flare virus infection. After learning this, they quickly began searching for Thomas. On the other side, Thomas and his friends were trying to get out of the city, but now Newt's infection had progressed too far, leaving him without the strength to move forward. Moreover, the fierce battle between the common people and Wicked also made it difficult for them to exit the city. Seeing the danger, Thomas told Brenda that she and Jorge should leave without them and take the immune children to safety. But just then, Jorge arrived with right arm leader Vince in a helicopter to reach Brenda. Jorge had contacted Vince and called him there. Brenda told Thomas that they were coming to get him, and by then, Thomas and his friends had to reach near the tunnel through which they had entered the city. But just then, Newt's strength gave out and he began turning into a crank. Seeing this, Thomas sent Minho and Gally to Brenda to bring the infection medicine so that they could stop Newt's infection from progressing. After that, Thomas somehow carried Newt and began trying to take him to a safe place. But soon, Newt collapsed in exhaustion. Just then, Teresa used the city speakers to tell Thomas that his blood was the cure for the infection. If he brought Newt and came to Wicked, they could use him to save Newt. Hearing this, as soon as Thomas turned toward Newt, he saw that Newt had completely turned into a crank. The next moment, Newt took a knife and moved toward Thomas. But instead of killing Thomas, he plunged that knife into his own chest and took his own life. Newt's death was a deep shock to Thomas and his friends. Thomas immediately went to Paige. He told Paige that he would surrender himself to Wicked to save the world from the virus. But in return, Wicked would have to stop pursuing his companions. Paige happily agreed to this deal, but just then, from behind, Jansen shot Paige and killed her. In reality, Jansen now wanted the infection cure for his own benefit. He thought that if only he had the cure for infection, the world would follow his orders. Jansen held Thomas at gunpoint and stuck a needle in his neck, which made Thomas unconscious. A little while later, when Thomas came out of unconsciousness, he saw that Jansen had tied him to a stretcher. He was making Teresa extract Thomas's blood and use it to prepare the infection medicine. As soon as the medicine was ready, Jansen showed Thomas and Teresa his hand. Thomas and Teresa saw that Jansen was also infected by the flare virus. In the previous part, when Brenda had shot Jansen's hand during the attack on the right arm, the flare virus present in the air had entered his bloodstream through the wound. But Jansen had been avoiding turning into a crank so far with the help of the medicine that stopped the infection. Jansen was about to inject the infection medicine into his hand when Teresa, seizing the opportunity, struck him with a glass and knocked him flat. After that, Teresa freed Thomas. But just then, Jansen got up and began firing at Thomas and Teresa. Thomas and Teresa quickly fled into a lab. Some cranks were imprisoned there. Just then, Teresa noticed that Thomas had been hit by one of Jansen's bullets. Soon, Jansen also reached that lab. Seeing this, Teresa hid Thomas in a corner and began hiding herself too. But Jansen found Teresa. Jansen was about to kill Teresa when Thomas struck the glass in which the cranks were imprisoned with a heavy object. The blow cracked the glass, after which the cranks broke through the glass and came out, seized Jansen, and killed him. Teresa immediately ran from there with Thomas. During this time, the rebels outside were continuously raining bombs on the building, causing the entire building to burn fiercely. Seeing this, Teresa brought Thomas to the roof of the building, but soon the fire reached the roof too. Now there was no way out for either of them, but just then, Thomas's companions arrived with a helicopter. Teresa somehow got Thomas onto the helicopter, but before Teresa could get onto the helicopter, the building collapsed, and along with it, Teresa was also killed. Meanwhile, Thomas, who was writhing in pain from his wound, also lost consciousness. After that, his companions quickly took him away from there. After some time had passed, when Thomas came out of unconsciousness, he saw that he was on an island by the sea. That place was Safe Haven, a safe place free from infection, where the right arm, along with its team and immune children, had already made a new beginning for humanity. In this fight from the maze to Safe Haven, Thomas lost many of his friends. But thanks to their sacrifices and Thomas's unbreakable courage, they finally reached their destination. With this story comes to an end. If you liked this recap, like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next recap.